Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about my top 10 list of G.I. Joe classified figures that we need that have not been announced yet, officially. And you're going to agree with some of these on the list, disagree with some of these on the list, but this top 10, there's actually about 15, because some of them, there's more than one figure in a slot. And I'll explain that as we go along, coming up. So number 10 on my list is Shipwreck, and because Shipwreck has been hinted at, that's why he's in this slot. I think that he's a very sought-after figure, or he's one that a lot of people really want, and so for that, he's a very popular character, and the fact that he comes with an animal. So it's been hinted at we're going to get another animal figure, and I like the fact that we're getting Spirit with Freedom, and he's a normal price figure. I feel we'll get the exact same thing with Shipwreck. And so, for that, I think it's a really good, solid need for a G.I. Joe Classified shelf. Shipwreck never really was one of my favorite characters, but I do have to admit that it is a nice breakup of color on your shelf for G.I. Joe Classified shelf, and it's kind of a fun character in a way. I always looked at him as a goof-off that could pull it together when the time is right. Shipwreck, number 10. So number 9 on my list is Dreadnoks, and most specifically, the three I think of when I think of Dreadnoks are Buzzer, Torch, and Ripper. And Larry Moe Curly, it's kind of the feeling you get with them. But anyway, those three guys are top of mind when I think about Dreadnoks. Now, there's a whole giant list that you can go into, Zanzibar, and all of those other ones. But at this point, we already have a Zartan. And then we know we're probably getting a Zorana pretty soon. Or sometime next year, of course. So I really think these three, top priority, we need them. So this takes up one slot. I don't think they do all three at once. I don't think a whole wave would come out with these. But then again, I could be wrong. It could be an awesome wave. What I think they would do is make all three and break them up and put them across different waves. Maybe they're like chase figures. Who knows? How would you like to see them do these three figures? And who would be your favorite Dreadnought that hasn't been made yet? So number 8 on my list is the Cobra Eel. It's the Cobra's Frogman. And I'm hesitant to put any troop builders on this list, but let's be frank, a lot of these are going to be troop builders for Cobra. So the Eel, I think, is something that is that substantial, that important, and that many people would want them. And yes, people would want to army build this guy, I'm sure. Like, I probably would only want 2 or 3, but I think some people would want a whole huge army of them. But anyway, it's one of those classic characters that I think would be really good to have. And of course, again, breaking it up. So having some sort of a nautical figure in there would be great. And we're going to get into some drivers here in a bit. But yeah, this guy looks pretty good. So getting into this, I kind of could see them making maybe a Cobra Night Landing to go along with the Eel. Maybe it's packed with it. Or maybe it is a separate vehicle. I don't know if they're at the point they could risk separate vehicles yet. I don't know. But maybe that's an idea. It's an option. But whenever I think of an Eel, I also think of the Night Landing. And then maybe that's just me. Is that you too? So next up on my list, number 7, is the AVAC, the AVAC pilot with the Firebat. Now, I think that we need to start thinking about working in some small vehicles into the line. I would love to see this. But even if we don't see it, I'd like to see the figure and the character. I don't think there'd be much of a demand or interest in the character without the Firebat. And so with that, we kind of need both to go together. But again, we also need these small vehicles to accentuate the line. And I don't know about you, but I'm not one that just wants to collect a bunch of action figures that do nothing. I like having the integration of vehicles. I like having the integration of backgrounds and some sort of stuff they can interact with. Maybe they can do computers and all that kind of stuff. But for now, small vehicles with pilots that make sense and go together. Right here, my number 7, AVAC with Firebat. So number 6 on my list, I have Scoop version 1 from Operation Dragonfire. And I know probably get a little pushback on that. A lot of people aren't huge fans of the character, but I really think if we're getting an Alley Viper, why not get the counterpart with Scoop? And that whole thing, that whole scenario right there, if you remember the Dragonfire, then you remember that. But anyway, looking at it, it's a pretty cool looking figure, and again, it's going to sort of, kind of break up the monotony of a shelf. It does have some green, it's got some yellow, it's kind of cool. Got some cool accessories, some interesting accessories. Got the helmet and all that. I think it would be a cool figure. I think it'd be a lot of fun. What do you guys think? So next up on the list is Wild Bill and Wild Weasel. Now this is going to be 2 for 1 at my number 5 slot. And the reason for this is because I think that Wild Bill, well, you'll never get a dragonfly, so I don't think they'll make that. I just don't think they will. It's the biggest vehicle that I think they would probably make for the line would be the dragonfly. So with that, aside from that, it has to be HasLab. And if they do a HasLab, well, wouldn't it be awesome, if they did a hovercraft or something? But with that, why not make the drivers? Why not make the characters? The drivers are cool. The drivers are pretty awesome. So I also think we could do some maybe remold and recolor and get a Recondo out of them. I mean, I've always felt that way, but then again, Recondo has baggier clothes and stuff like that. Anyhow, there's probably some repaint potential for him, so there's a lot for him. Now, obviously, if you look at Wild Weasel, he's a pilot, and he's going to be a troop builder. And I wanted to keep a lot of troop builders off the list, but I do want to talk about pilots, and I think any pilot for Cobra is going to be a troop builder. So why not let it be Wild Weasel, who, of course, flies the Rattler, one of the cooler, more interesting pilots that are out there. I think these are 2 cool options. What other pilots would you like to see? So number 4 on my list is Blowtorch, and I kind of think that this is more of a pipe dream because they just put out the barbecue figure, and I don't think that Blowtorch would come soon. But again, he's just so different in design. He's very classic. He's been around for so long, as well as an 84 release or something like that. So Blowtorch would definitely be a cool one. And I've heard some hints and rumors, but of course we've got Barbecue. We didn't get him, and then there's no more talk of him at all whatsoever. Really would be a classic character to see on a G.I. Joe classified shelf. And I think this figure here would actually be a lot of fun. So number 3 on my list would be Alpine, the Mountain Trooper. I have to say that this character is a lot of fun. I really enjoy the character overall. And I also sort of kind of associate him with Bazooka, but I like this character far more than Bazooka. I don't hate Bazooka or anything. It's just in my mind, this guy's 10 or 15 slots ahead of Bazooka, and I'd rather have him before Bazooka. But I still would like to see a Bazooka in the future. Anyhow, looking at him though, there is a lot of cool stuff with this figure. So I remember with the G1 figure, how many accessories came with him. Okay, G1, Transformers, Vintage. Anyway, so the version 1, the Vintage Alpine, I would love to see him. Just looks really cool. I just start to wonder when you start looking at some of these figures, when they go G.I. Joe classified, like that rope around his chest or hanging around his chest, you'd actually get either real rope or you'd get something that's more simulated, not just carved in or etched into it. It would actually be another piece added to the figure. So would they make the jacket to where the jacket float, all those kinds of things? Just a lot of questions and a lot of stuff going on. And all of these weapons here that look really cool, would they include all these accessories? I think they would. And I think it would be really cool to have this guy on the shelf on a G.I. Joe classified shelf. So number 2 on my list is Snow Job. And for so many reasons, I was intrigued with this figure when it came out. It was my brother's figure, and so I really liked it. But as a character, he's always doing something in the show. And the fact that he's dressed in all this snow gear would definitely stand out on a shelf. It would be different. And making a bunch of figures that are very similar and look the same isn't as much fun as making figures that are wildly different. And this guy would be wildly different. It would be a lot of color breakup on the shelf, and that would be really cool. Now I start to wonder, how would they do like with the hood and the goggles and all that kind of stuff? I wouldn't mind if it was all molded in, but I think it would all be, some of it be removable or something like that. It would be interesting to see how they do this character, but not just with how they do the head and how they do the helmet and the hat and the goggles and all that kind of stuff, but how do they handle the gear? See, I was impressed with this figure from day one because he had full-on skis and he had poles and his gun and all that, but the skis clipped to the backpack. So I think that the skis clipping to the backpack might not be a thing, but then again, it might have to still be a thing. But having all of it integrate like that where he can do both in either one, I mean, what kind of cool stuff would they come up with the skis flip in half and clip to the backpack? I mean, so much other things could be done this day and age with modern technology, and where we're going with Masterpiece Transformers. Well, I'd like to see what they do with this guy, and I think it'd be pretty awesome.
Blunderers! Fools! We possess power greater than any on Earth.
So number 1 on my list is Serpentor and his air chariot. Now, kind of, you would need to have Serpentor and his air chariot as a deluxe figure, the $40 price point. Hopefully they can hit the $40 price point on it, but he probably will be a little bit bigger. He's going to have the cape and some accessories and stuff to him. But I don't think that an air chariot would be very expensive to manufacture. Not many parts. I mean, that's kind of the whole concept and idea from the vintage version. So the toy back in the original era was packaged with it. So it's kind of like we would need it like that. I would love to see it come. And of course, we see the whole item with the whole clear packaging. I do want them to continue the similar style packaging. But so reminiscent of getting your Serpentor and getting your chariot at the same time. It was a lot of fun back then. I also feel like it was kind of a miss back in, the 25th anniversary. The last one that came out was not the greatest version of Serpentor. I don't think they did the greatest job. I really hope G.I. Joe Classified comes out just looking awesome, looking amazing, detailed, matching more or less what we think of Serpentor, and doing a great job. Bigger, badder, and better than ever. And a lot of people don't like Serpentor so much, and they don't like this whole Cobra Law arc, but that's a discussion for another day, because I think that the more time that goes by, the more interesting this concept becomes. So what do you think about my list? Am I way, way off track here? Or did I hit the nail right on the head? Or am I hit and miss? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.